Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Quite a watch party in San Diego for USA's biggest match yet. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Today's draw against England is just part of the story. Our coverage tonight includes the perspective of American and British fans to their matchup at the World Cup. And we start with Jacob Ayer in the gas lamp.
USA! USA!
San Diego's soccer mania got an early start Friday with fans and their passions for Team USA on display hours before game time.
It feels great. The USA wasn't in the last World Cup, and now we're here, and we have a young, great squad, and it's awesome to watch.
Both in the Gaslamp Quarter and nearby at the Rady Shell,
I believe that we! I believe that we! I believe that we will win! I believe that we will win!
people celebrated the matchup between USA and England.
Well, we got here early and it was pretty fun just to see the place empty, and now just seeing it completely full is crazy to me because the support for soccer hasn't been that great here in the U.S., and now we're seeing all the support coming out and it's just great.
Hundreds were at the Gaslamp watch party to see Team USA pull out a gritty 0-0 final score.
We just love that everyone's come together, San Diego, United States, coming together, come out here. It's so amazing. Support our team, especially since we haven't been here in 8 years.
And roughly 4,000 people crammed in to watch the match at the Shell, with many being turned away at the gates due to full capacity. But Diego Diaz was able to make it inside with his family.
I brought my son, little one-year-old, for the first time, so it's a great bonding time. And, you know, having gone to the World Cup in Russia last year, I'm missing out this year. It's great to see this atmosphere, which I didn't get to live the prior year here in San Diego.
In some respects, Friday was the warm-up act for Saturday. That's when San Diego's other team will be on the pitch.
So it's exciting because tomorrow's game is going to be Mexico and Argentina, which go Mexico because we're so near the Tijuana, and a lot of people are coming over to cross over and obviously go to shopping, but they're going to stop by here first and just enjoy the free crowd, the free ambience, the free games.
Team USA will play Iran at 11 a.m. Tuesday for their final match of the group stage. If they win, they'll advance to the next round. If they tie or lose, they'll be eliminated. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
They were out in the before dawn hours Black Friday morning, but not for shopping. KPBS reporter Claire Strong says English fans living in San Diego began lining up outside Shakespeare's pub at 5 a.m. for the USA-England World Cup match.
England fans were in fine voice ahead of the game with the USA, although singing the newly revised national anthem God Save the King instead of God Save the Queen may take some getting used to. It was the best of both worlds for this group. They were watching their home squad from a game somewhere that's 70 degrees and sunny instead of 50 degrees and cold like it is in England right now.
How is it to be in San Diego during the World Cup?
Well, pretty good, good atmosphere. A bit early in the morning, but yeah, otherwise good, yeah.
Proper fish and chips were also in plentiful supply at Shakespeare's, just in case the England faithful were feeling a little homesick. And then there were those caught in the middle, having been born in the States, but with family back in England.
I'm half English, half American, so grew up here, but was raised supporting England. So I'm a little torn, but I have to go with who my mom supported growing up.
Now, things might look pretty quiet right now, but let me tell you that at 5 a.m. this morning, this was teeming with people just lining up, hoping to get in here to watch the England game.
And to cope with the deluge of tea-loving Brits, the owners at Shakespeare had to call in extra help.
We've definitely had to hire more staff. We've had to hire additional security.
Well, the final score, a goalless draw, could be best likened to a wet weekend in Whitby for England fans. This basically translates to the result being like a rainy vacation, leaving these supporters deflated.
Not great, depressed.
The one time in the States, and we lose. It feels like a loss, to be fair. Yeah. We might as well have lost. Played awful.
And with that, England fans have just a few days to G themselves back up, just in time for their team's clash with Wales on Tuesday. Claire Strong, KPBS News.
And tomorrow morning, Mexico will play its second match in the group stage against Argentina. It's scheduled for 11 Pacific time, and you can stream our story on the unique cross-border soccer culture between U.S. and Mexican fans. It's one of our most popular stories this week at kpbs.org. It used to be the biggest shopping day of the year, but these days the deals stretch far beyond Black Friday. A local Pup-Up event is encouraging pet owners to support small businesses this holiday season. Many people are taking advantage of shopping deals and discounts this weekend. Local Encinitas businesses Puppy Picnic Co. and Pet Power Studio are having a special Black Friday and Small Business Saturday sale with dog-friendly vendors. The shop's owner says this is one of the biggest weekends of the year in terms of sales for her business. They'll be back at it tomorrow. The event runs from 12 to 5. And the holiday shopping season is make or break time for San Ysidro's retail sector. KPBS border reporter Gustavo Solis spoke to locals who say they are still recovering from the pandemic.
2 weeks ago, Governor Gavin Newsom took a statewide victory lap. California has now fully recovered all jobs that were lost to the pandemic-induced recession, the governor declared in a press release sent out to newsrooms throughout the state. But that little bit of news didn't land very well in San Ysidro, where more than 200 stores closed and thousands lost their jobs during the pandemic. Jason Wells is the CEO of the San Ysidro Chamber of Commerce.
Unfortunately, that's not the case here in San Ysidro. We lost over 2,000 jobs during the pandemic. Those jobs have not miraculously come back.
All businesses were impacted in one way or another by the pandemic. But San Ysidro and other places that depend on cross-border commerce were crushed. This is mainly because of the harsh restrictions on border crossings implemented by the Trump administration and continued by President Biden. Jimena Villaseñor Martinez is the International Business Affairs Coordinator for the San Diego Regional Chamber of Commerce. She says the entire region's economy was badly hurt.
This is shown from the decrease of having an estimated impact of $428 million in 2019 and barely reached $85 million by July of 2021.
Biden lifted the restrictions by late 2021, but by then, too much damage had already been done.
And local companies have struggled with their workforce, showing late for work and delaying production and shipping times, which then increases the costs and have them losing clients. And sometimes they even decide to move out of a region or just stop investing in San Diego itself.
In San Ysidro, Wells says that retail sales figures are still below what they were before the pandemic, and wait times at the border remain high due to staffing shortages at Customs and Border Protection. All of this likely means another tough holiday shopping season.
And over a third of our businesses make their overall net profit for the year between November 20th and January 6th. This is extremely crucial.
Making things even worse is the continued closure of the Ped West border crossing. This is important because people used to walk directly from this border crossing to Las Americas outlet malls in San Ysidro. Now they have to go through the Ped East border crossing, which is further away and has longer wait times. Villaseñor Martinez says the inconvenience is too much for many.
There is no efficient transportation that takes you to Las Americas, so either you have to walk or either you have to take a bus.
Customs and Border Protection has previously said that reopening Ped West is a top priority, but no one knows when that will actually happen. The agency did not respond to a KPBS request for comment. Elsewhere in San Ysidro, vacant stores and for rent listings are grim signs of the slow recovery. Diana Salazar grew up in Tijuana. She still remembers going on shopping trips to San Ysidro with her mom when she was a little girl.
Well, it's pretty sad because to see how San Ysidro used to be a pretty crowded community, and now this boulevard is pretty lonely. They just come here to the bank or the PO box businesses.
She started working at the Chamber of Commerce during the pandemic. Her role was to try to help businesses get grants and loans to avoid closing.
It's pretty sad to see how many businesses just closed thanks to the pandemic.
The San Ysidro Chamber of Commerce created a recovery plan to help struggling businesses. They even asked city and county officials to help fund the plan. Wells says that County Supervisor Nora Vargas' office contributed $300,000, but Mayor Todd Gloria's staff did not respond to his plea for aid.
Unfortunately, it's something we're used to. We often say we're part of the city of San Diego, the forgotten part.
In response to questions from KPBS, Gloria's office said that Wells sent his funding request too late, but they said that San Ysidro businesses can still apply for a small business grant program. Gustavo Solis, KPBS News.
And we have more Black Friday coverage a bit later. That includes a look at the national picture with Americans still living in an era of high inflation. We'll also get some insight on this year's shopping trends in the Friday Business Report. We're now 9 months into Russia's war on Ukraine, and the view from space shows the recent struggle in keeping the lights on. These two images from NASA satellites show an aerial view of Ukraine in January on the left and November on the right. Russia has bombed key pieces of Ukraine's power grid in recent days. Ukraine's government says about 50% of all residents are experiencing outages. France and the World Health Organization are working on a plan to supply more generators to the country. The stream of refugees out of Ukraine isn't letting up, with more escaping harm's way to places like San Diego. KPBS reporter Kitty Alvarado caught up with a Ukrainian artist now facing an uncertain future with her daughter.
Ukrainian refugees Vera Yustianska and her 9-year-old daughter Vasilisa feel very much at home in the Spanish-style house in San Diego.
It was like superhero.
Here, they feel free to do what they love.
Vasilisa, but we call it Vasi.
That's because Connie Terwilliger welcomed them into her home and even opened her art studio for Vera. Vera says their sponsor family kicked them out only a month after they arrived here from Poland.
It was very lucky. The listing the room on Airbnb in February, right after the war started, I didn't hear anything at all. And then all of a sudden, an incredible painter just drops out of the sky right into my garage and my house, and it's been wonderful.
Vera's husband is a military airplane mechanic needed in the war effort in Ukraine. Vera says before that experience, fleeing from the war was her lowest point.
I don't know where will I be now if Connie didn't help us. I don't know. I'm so scared.
Vera can smile again because her daughter is safe and she can paint again. She's an accomplished artist and has her own studio in Ukraine where she taught art. So this studio, where she can paint her famous sunflowers, has brought her back to life.
When you look to my different painting with sunflowers, you can feel different feelings.
Her goal is to once again earn a living from her art to support her family while she's here. What she struggles with now are wasted moments.
We plant sunflowers on our summer house, and we have big field, and we feel freedom every time.
She hopes this piece that captures a wilting sunflower called Seize the Time inspires others to learn from the moments she wishes she would have savored a little more.
It's difficult when you want to do many things. It's difficult to find enough time for all your dreams.
Kitty Alvarado, KPBS News.
I'm William Brangham. On the next News Hour, how a multi-billion-dollar grocery merger could change prices for shoppers. Coming up at 7, right after Evening Edition on KPBS.
Homeless veterans are suing the Veterans Administration for not building homes as quickly as promised here in Southern California. As Nick Watt reports, they're also questioning why land intended for veterans is being used for sports.
This is UCLA's manicured baseball diamond and Brentwood School's playing fields.
It's really kind of disgusting to see.
Not at all what Christine Barry's ancestor had in mind when she donated much of this land in the late 1800s.
It wasn't given to anybody but veterans for a home.
But with Vietnam,
the VA decided no more. And the neighboring community said, we don't want Vietnam disabled vets out here. And so the vets were kicked out.
4,000 vets once lived here, roughly the same number of homeless veterans in LA today. Late last night, in an LA courthouse, a lawsuit was filed, demanding that within 6 months, the VA offer housing to at least 3,500 vets on or around this land, and not use this land for purposes that are not primarily related to providing housing and healthcare for veterans with disabilities. So, no longer a private school's playground.
What do you want to see happening on there?
A lot, but the base thing is housing for veterans, period.
Joshua Pettit served in Iraq, lived for a year outside the fence around this land. He's among 14 homeless veteran plaintiffs.
Our land, or build us housing. But no, they don't want us here, bro. I get it, but I don't care. They can send us to war, we can get these problems, and you're not going to deal with us? No.
Back in 2016, after a lawsuit and pressure from veterans and advocates, the VA promised to house homeless veterans here. When we visited in March, more than 700 new units should have been completed. Not one was complete. Zero.
They're all studio apartments.
About 180 were under construction, scheduled to open this fall. They're not open.
And now we're being told next year, January, February timeframe, so it's always delays.
Back in 2016, an act of Congress also decreed that leaseholders on this land must principally benefit veterans.
What's the point of a law if our own federal government's not going to follow it? And then the end result of this is that people are dying on the street. I mean, it's serious.
The VA privately signed a lease amendment with UCLA, giving the college more land for a practice field.
If we were to say no to that, they could have gone to a judge or somewhere.
The VA signed a new agreement with an oil drilling company and another 10-year lease with Brentwood School. Back in March, VA brass told me this.
So the arrangement with the school is non-compliant. I'm sure if we terminated the lease, they would take us to court over it.
So he agrees with one key part of this new lawsuit. Brentwood School's athletic facilities should not be on this land. And now the VA is being taken to court, not by the school or UCLA, but by veterans who want a home.
How can you be the home of the brave when so many of the brave are actually homeless? Every administration has treated them as disposable, so that it is the hardest part of war is coming home.
Going through what you're going through now, how important is it to have your own place, your own space?
It's everything. Stability, housing, and then everything else will fall into place. And veterans deserve it. Rob, call her.
KPBS News regularly covers the issues affecting San Diego's veteran community. Just recently, local leaders held a summit for the latest solutions on veteran housing, and you can find that story at kpbs.org. Earlier, we checked in on the local shopping scene, and even though the traditional shopping window is evolving, malls across America are still seeing a lot of activity. Gloria Pazmino tells us about this year's appetite to spend.
It's the biggest shopping day of the year amid high inflation rates, increased prices, and an economy still in flux.
Price is high, so we have to make some adjustment what we're going to buy this year.
Despite persistently high inflation, retail spending continues to show strength. U.S. retail sales were up a little over 1% from September to October. Still, consumers say they're cautious.
It is a little bit downsizing in terms of buying gifts, not like last year. So yes, inflation is affecting us.
But National Retail Federation data shows shoppers are still hitting stores and spending big. An estimated 166.3 million people plan to shop from Thanksgiving Day through Cyber Monday.
It seems less frantic. There is less supply chain issues. There are more physical stores that are open, and there's been better capacity planning. And so we're seeing a lot more stability.
69% of consumers plan to shop on Black Friday, which remains the most popular day to shop. 38% say they will shop on Cyber Monday, according to the survey.
I think we have a really big base of consumers that shop online, but we also have a lot of consumers that shop in stores, and our best customers shop both of them.
Gloria Pazmino, KPBS News.
Business experts will be closely watching just how much money people spend this year and when. SDSU marketing lecturer Miro Kopik has some insight on how things are different this year in the Friday Business Report.
Consumer shopping in person is going to be a big deal. You know, we've seen over the last couple of years that Black Friday has lost a lot of its kind of momentum. You know, there aren't those 4 a.m. sales. However, this year, the National Retail Federation expects a fair amount of growth, but a lot of shoppers coming in on Black Friday. And the reason is a lot of stores that were traditionally open on Thanksgiving, that was a trend that started a few years ago, were closed, like Macy's and Kohl's. During the pandemic, online sales had cropped up to almost 35 to 40% of all retail sales. Those are going to be back down this year. It's going to go back down to 18 to 20% because consumers really want that physical experience in stores. The malls have changed the way they celebrate the kind of holiday window with restaurants, pop-up stores, a lot of decorations and areas focused for kids. So consumers are going to have a way better experience compared to last year. Last year was a very tough holiday season. People were spending. There weren't products on the shelf because of the supply chain issues. This year, most of those supply chain issues have been resolved. Retailers have a lot of inventory. They've had a lot of inventory for months. So we're going to see bigger discounts. Last year, the discounts were 25% or less. This year, they're going to be 25% or more, with some online retailers looking at 50% site-wide savings. So that's really important for consumers who are looking for value this holiday season.
Changes coming up, and it has everything to do with the wind direction as we go through the weekend. We'll also talk about some cooler air. But hey, for traveling on Sunday, weather conditions are looking pretty good. All right, let's talk about tonight, and again, those temperatures will be settling down into the 30s around Oceanside, San Diego. The winds definitely settling down. We'll start to notice a bit of an onshore flow work its way into the picture as we head our way into Saturday. You start to see how those clouds are rolling back into some of those coastal communities. So we'll start the day off with some clouds, end up with some sunshine. And again, some chilly air still in place here off to the east from the mountains into the deserts. But we'll notice again the temperatures are down somewhat compared to what we saw just the other day. 82 degrees, San Diego, the warmest day we've seen so far this month. And notice now we're down into the 60s, but this is a little bit closer to normal. Again, morning clouds, late day sunshine for the coast, and even some of the interior valleys, western valleys, can see a bit of sunshine. There's your onshore flow as we go into Sunday. So again, more morning clouds, but it will be a dry day for travel. And of course, that is key here. In terms of precipitation, already for the month, we're around 150% of our normal rainfall. Had all that rain back earlier in the month. Now, with the next system coming in early week, can't rule out a sprinkle. Perhaps a shower over the interior. I think most spots here are going to see the clouds around. You'll definitely notice a cooling trend as we look for those highs over the interior to drop back down into the 60s starting off on Monday. Otherwise, as we check out the mountains here too, we're going to see some gusty winds charge in with our next system. That will be an inland system, so not major impacts here again into our area, but we will see some cooler air coming in along with some gusty winds, so subsiding by Tuesday. And into the deserts, we'll also notice some clouds, otherwise a bit of a cool down as we head into Monday and also into Tuesday. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Justin Pavic.
It's about as close to the moon as NASA can get without a landing. These are photos from the Orion capsule taken this week during its closest approach to the moon, about 80 miles from the surface. Orion is part of the Artemis 1 mission, which will eventually lead to another human trip. The ultimate goal is to create a lunar outpost that will help with a potential trip to Mars. KPBS cinema junkie Beth Accomando says Christmas does not arrive early in theaters. The new releases of Steven Spielberg's The Fabelmans and the adaptation of the young adult novel Bones and All left her disappointed. Here's her review.
Steven Spielberg's The Fabelmans begins well. Drawing on his own childhood, he shows us how movie making began early in his life.
Sammy, we're going to use Daddy's camera to film it. I'll only crash the train once, okay? Then after we get the film developed, you can watch it crash over and over till it's not so scary anymore.
But for a film that's supposed to be Spielberg's most personal, it feels oddly distant. There's a lot of talk about art, but very little on display, as Spielberg is heavy on exposition, but light on insights into his own creative process. He seems driven to make movies only because he's impressed at how they elicit responses from people. Plus, most of what we see of him as a young filmmaker is just him imitating other movies.
And cut, beautiful. That was good.
I know this is an Oscar favorite with the kind of sentimentality audiences enjoy, but it feels bland and pedantic. I don't like to be told who a character is and why something is important. I want to discover those things, and there's no sense of discovery in The Fabelmans. Bones and All does for cannibals what Twilight did for vampires, and that's not a compliment. Both films are based on young adult novels, and both remove the teeth from their horror roots as they focus on young love. The film starts boldly as it introduces Marin and her unexpected hunger for human flesh. The film refers to such people as eaters and suggests there's a whole subculture of them living under the radar of society. But the intrigue of all that fades into the background as Marin falls in love with Lee, a fellow eater.
Should probably go anyway up close so you can see blood.
At 131 minutes, it wears out its welcome by succumbing to an emo romance that only Timothée Chalamet fans could enjoy. As a horror fan, I usually embrace cannibal films, but not when the horror's made palatable for mainstream audiences. I won't call Bones and All and The Fabelmans lumps of coal, but they're not anything I'd put on my holiday list. Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.